The Spirituality Now podcast is sponsored by Delaflor Teachings International, a spiritual and systemic coaching and consulting company with the mission to help individuals, businesses, and corporations create brilliant futures through sustainable transformation. Also sponsored by the Network for Human Empowerment, a philanthropic TV network that serves Spanish-speaking communities with free, conscious education aimed to empower individuals to become the best versions of themselves.
Welcome to the Spirituality Now podcast, a podcast committed to supporting you in your journey to life mastery and personal enlightenment. Welcome, my friends, to the Spirituality Now podcast. I am your host, Yvonne de la Flor, and every week I get to interview, well, sometimes it's not every week because sometimes I do the solo podcasts kind of gig, which is very rare. But every week I am blessed to encounter higher minds, higher souls, and incredible human beings that are experts in such very specific areas in life that I truly believe that the podcast value, even though it's called Spirituality Now, the impact that it has had, that we keep growing thanks to you all, that you follow us. Remember, we're a philanthropic podcast, so we depend really on your shares. We kept it philanthropic so we don't interrupt our beautiful guests, teachers, etc., with commercials. And that's the choice I made. And so the De La Flor Teachings International spiritual and systemic coaching and consulting company is our sponsor. We're also sponsored and produced by Authority Syndication Media. And so just know that to share. But my guest today, I'm going to start with her bio, and then we're going to start with the flow, the conversation of questions here. But I'm just going to start with this. Our guest this week, ZofiaRennea Morales. I think I'm saying it well. If not, she will beautifully correct me. She is an award-winning global strategist and former, listen to this, biophysicist. Anytime I see this I'm so proud for all humans. I don't have a preference. Women, men, I think we're all humans. But anytime I hear this from a woman, I'm like, yes, team woman. Anyway, ZofiaRennea Morales had it all: a high-powered career, loving husband, gorgeous properties, adventure, good friends, you name it. Oh, I'm beginning to see how we are reconnecting, Zofia. I'm going to say just like me. Anyways, she was living the dream until her fast-paced life screeched to a halt and left her in pieces, brought to the edge of death by undiagnosed chronic Lyme disease, and left bankrupt in every area of her life. Desperate for a miracle, Zofia cried her most heartfelt prayer: I will do anything to get better. This single prayer triggered an unanticipated kundalini awakening, a spiritual activation which unlocked Zofia's gift as an intuitive healer and mystic, changing her life completely. ZofiaRennea Morales is now the host of the talk radio program Sovereignself, which happens on Mondays at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So, yeah, and the website is sovereignself.live. We will make sure to put everything website where you can find her, after the interview and in the copy when it's published, the podcast. And she's also the creator of the Conscious Enlightenment Process, a transformation alchemist and teacher, guiding her clients to find the goal within their most painful life transitions, helping people from all backgrounds notice how life grabs the best gifts in the shittiest wrapping paper. Amen, sister. Amen. I really love that. Zofia's scientific and corporate background appeals to clients who appreciate the way she integrates a pragmatic woo and real life into her work. Seasoned with love and laughter, Zofia guides her clients through their own spiritual crisis how important this is. Anyways, and on to their paths of passion and purpose with warm joy, tenderness, and play. And I am so blessed. I'm so impressed that the Spirituality Now podcast has it has becoming a portal, a little portal. We're still like in baby steps here, a little portal where I have to meet the greatest minds and spirits. Zofia, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Yvonne. I'm looking forward to our conversation here today.
Oh my gosh, I have the I'm not gonna call them the hard questions. I have the Zofia, I lived what you lived questions. You know,
Yes.
I mean, I'm like, wow, just Zofia, just for background.
Yeah.
I've been a spiritual teacher for it since forever. I landed in that niche of labels, right? Of labels.
Right.
But I used to go from my house to the grocery store in helicopter, just for you to understand that.
Okay. Yeah.
So because when I started reading like and all the properties and everything, I'm like, yep,
Whoops.
got that, check, and gone,
Check,
So
check. Exactly. And then when your soul's ready to wake up, it gets out the black marker and it like lines through a bunch of stuff until it gets
oh
your
my
attention.
gosh, I love this. I love your humor. And this is something that was highlighted in your bio, but I love that because in my experience over more than now, I'm about to turn 51, I started at 12, but really the path of service started when I was 20. So 30 years of service. I met incredible teachers, spiritual gurus, live with them in India and everything. But I have found that the greatest teachers, the ones that really support others, have an incredible sense of humor. And,
Yes.
and you have that.
Humor, I find, does a number of things. First of all, it keeps you humble. It helps to keep the ego in check. And the other thing that humor does is it helps to move out the heavy stuff.
Ooh,
I
wow.
know.
You came to my life in the right moment. Wow.
Yeah, I did not realize this until I'd been working with clients for a while. It took about a year and a half of working with clients for it to really sink in for me. Because initially we would be digging deep into a psychological wounding or a world that had blown up for some reason or another. And we would get to this really wounded place and we would touch on what the truth was. And it's like, oh, it's really heavy. And then always spirit would come with some kind of a light thought or a humorous take on the situation. And it didn't always come from me. It would come from the client. And that is the thing that would start to like lift it up and move it out and allow that healing to really begin and accelerate.
Wow. Wow. See, we just started with humor and you just gave us a master class in the first minutes of the podcast. And I'm making notes out of this. So Zofia, wow. This seems to be a non-linear, but let me start. I would love to know on every episode, not all of them, but most of them, I ask, so where did Zofia began? Where did Zofia began with her, with her not only spiritual journey, her human journey that gave her the tools that maybe she didn't know when she was little, right? That she was going to use when these collapses happen, when the heroic journey finds us, right? When the dark nights that are, I would like to correct them for people. They just call them the dark night of the soul. I will add an S. It's plural. The dark nights of the soul. When that happens, so where does Zofia start? What's the beginning of Zofia? What does the inner child of Zofia? Where do you begin, love?
Where I began was under a whole different name. Zofia was a name that was given to me after I woke up. So I think of it as my spiritual name.
Yes.
So I grew up under a very different name, which I never liked, and it never felt like it fit me properly.
Yes.
In a household that was extremely religious. In a very fundamentalist sort of way. So there wasn't necessarily, what I want to say, the relationship with the divine that I think religion at its highest and best can lead you into. The religion I was raised in was more of a power and control and almost spiritual abuse sort of situation. And so in that environment, I shut a lot of things down. I used to have prescient dreams. I would see things that would happen in the future. And in the atmosphere I was raised in, I was told that that sort of thing was of the devil,
Oh, yeah.
and that there were no more miracles after Jesus left the earth. And anyone who claims to be doing these things is, a witch or a demon or something
Wow.
like that. And so I didn't want to be any of those things.
Yeah, of course.
you
No
know,
one wants to. Yeah.
exactly. And so I shut down almost all of my psychic gifts. And the
Wow.
only thing that, well, there were two aspects of my psychic gifts that remained alive. And one was partially repressed. And that was, I'm a physical empath as
Mm.
well as an emotional empath.
Mm.
And I'm a knower. I have clear knowing. And
Mm.
the empathy I could write off just as being a very empathetic child, right? Regular empathy, not exceptional empathy. And the knowing, because I was a voracious reader and because I had an amazing memory, I could palm that off as, well, I must have read it somewhere, because no one would question that, because they always saw me with my nose in a book, and it was always this wide array of of subjects. So the world would accept that.
Mm.
Even though I knew myself that some of this stuff, I have no idea where that information came from. It was just there. I had it. I
Mm.
provided the answer.
Wow. Wow. So yeah, how many people, they have to, I'm going to say, just to be able to survive the environment, I call it the training ground, the training ground,
Yeah,
right? But how many people shut down their gifts in order just to be able to survive and to
yeah,
belong and to make sense of something that makes no sense at all, right? And just to be able to
exactly.
survive. And I
Well, and
love,
our society
yes,
trains us out of it, right? Very
yes.
deliberately. I mean, if you look at people who work with young children, they're like, oh, your imaginary friend, isn't that sweet? They don't take it
Mm,
seriously. That's not actually an imaginary friend. That is
mm,
an entity, an energy that that child is seeing, whether it's a crossed over
absolutely.
dead person or a nature sprite or fairy, or what it is.
Wow.
Because most adults are so shut down, they have no idea that that's even happening, and they don't have a recollection of it even.
And how I love that you're sharing this, because I'm already feeling that like transformational transmission that you have just by presence. But you had the knowing. I love that you call it the knowing. I hope you one day you write a book called The Knowing. That,
Thank
that
you for the title of my upcoming book.
I'm known for that, Sophia. I'm known for that. If you ask the people around us or the network television, I'm known for like being like I say that I am a translator of the intelligence space. So I catch messages and I just translate that language and then pass it on. So I would love to read that. And everybody that is listening to this podcast, this is belongs to Sophia, and then it will belong to all. So anyway,
Do not take that title.
do not, because Sophia and I have the humor that you will feel the vibes. Anyways, but the knowing, Sophia, I think, that is so potent and powerful to address, because children have that knowing. And as adults, it takes a lot of spiritual work and spiritual cultivation and undoing, right? Removing the weeds
Yeah,
that we accumulated.
I love that you call it undoing, because
Yes.
that's exactly what it is. A lot of people are walking around going, I'm a muggle, I don't have anything. It's like, no, you have just been so trained into that you don't have anything, that you have
Wow.
to unlearn all of that. And as you unlearn it, it
Yeah.
starts to return.
Wow, and I want to tell people, the unknowing. I love that the unknowing will lead you to the knowing, but that knowing is when a lot of people will call, oh, she's an old soul, right, in a young body. But
Yeah.
that I really believe that as spiritual beings, when we have a journey for God realization, self-realization, that knowing begins to speak through us, like Yeshua, Jesus, or like, Anna Frank. Anna Frank, this young girl that, protected many people from being killed in the, by
In the
Hitler
Holocaust.
in
Yeah.
the Holocaust. And she had a knowing, right? It was the
Yeah.
knowing, a calling, and knowing that what to do. The wisdom was there, even if you are not trained. And I really feel
Yes.
that,
And it can truly, truly save your life.
oh my
I
goodness. Yes.
long before I woke up, I
Yes.
had an
Tell us about that.
experience of that arriving. I was carjacked when I was in grad school.
Wow.
Put my stuff in from Walmart in the back of the car. I dropped into the driver's seat, and this guy dropped into the passenger seat.
Oh my God.
Your first reaction is, who the hell are you, and get out of my car, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want to say. And I opened my mouth to say that, and this calmness came down over me. And I had this sensation like my personality was sort of pushed off to the side.
Oh,
And what came out of my mouth was, are you okay? How can I help you?
oh my God.
And
Oh,
this
wow.
calmness sat with me through the entire experience. And it prompted me to ask about him, ask about his life, what's going on. And he was sharing this story. And I know it was a story. He was showing all of the signs of lying. But the calmness was telling me that doesn't matter that he's lying. Just keep connecting with him with concern. And so I asked him about his girlfriend, and they're having their first child, and are his parents excited to become grandparents, and what are they going to name the baby? All of the questions that you ask an expectant father, right? And in the meantime, he's giving me directions through the city, and I'm in grad school. I don't live in a good part of town at this stage of my life.
Right.
And he's sending me into a part of town that there is no way in hell I'd have gone, right? And it's like, oh, this is not going to be a good situation, but I'm continuing to connect and relate with him. And he directs me into the parking lot of an abandoned gas station. And I'm
Oh my
like, oh,
God.
this is where the shit's going to get really real.
Yes.
And this calmness reminded me that I had $60 I was planning to contribute to the church,
Oh,
and prompted me to offer that to him. And I looked at him and I said, okay, I've got this $60. Let's cut out the middleman, and I will just offer this to your family as a way to start out, on a good place in your new life with your new baby.
oh my
And
God.
do you know where there's a cash machine? And he says, oh, yes, absolutely. Directed me back to the cash machine. I took out the $60. I said, do you want me to take you back to that parking lot? And he says, oh, no, no, no. So I don't know what was planned for that parking lot, but I don't think it was just him. And so he directed me down farther to another corner under a well-lit street light. He got out of the car, and I went home.
Okay. Your book? This has to be in the book. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Zofia, that question that you ask, what a powerful question to ask any human being. Are you okay? And this
Right.
is long before that you said you're awakening, but that knowing, that presence, that spiritual power. No, I just call it that right now. And I know it's going to limit it because it's far beyond
Yeah.
that, right? It's an
I just trusted the calmness. Okay.
Mhm.
It wasn't easy. Let's put it that way, because the personality part of me wanted to call him out on the fact that he was lying to me, and that sort of thing. And the calmness just kept saying, shh, it doesn't matter. Shh, it doesn't matter. Keep relating to him. Keep asking him questions that show that you're interested and concerned for him.
Wow, putting the personality to the side. You know how many problems and issues and things I will have avoided in my life because of that?
If I put the personality to the side, exactly.
Oh, I love that. Putting the personality aside. That is such a powerful visual. So, and this is just before that. So you grew up, then, I guess you married. And then What happened? Tell us about the Zofia in the bio that she
Oh
got
my
it
goodness.
all of
We
that.
could spend the entire episode on this, but
Oh, I'm going to invite you again. Every time,
okay,
whenever you want, the podcast
fabulous.
is open for you. Yes.
I love to have these conversations, so I am thrilled to return.
Oh my God. Thank you.
So I at the time that I was carjacked, I had just separated from my husband, the practice husband.
Yes.
I learned a lot through that relationship. You know, I learned to stand up for myself. I learned that no one will look out for me the same way that I will, this sort of thing. It's like, yes, I must take responsibility for my own health and happiness and well-being in this world. You know, these are some of the valuable things that I took out of that extremely ugly, abusive, and manipulative situation. And so that was an important phase of learning, I think, for me. And I love that you're like, I resonate with, you know, the idea that you had everything and you lost everything and all this stuff, because I find that the master teachers, the people who are here to touch a bunch of people in the world, we've got a freaking pile of t-shirts. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, and we just keep stacking them up.
Yes.
You know, chronic pain, miscarriages, you know, all of the things. We just kind of stack them up. I've been through bankruptcy. I've lived in my car, right? Just keep stacking them up.
Wow.
Because those are the things that people relate to.
Yes.
They don't relate to perfect. They don't relate to enlightened. That's a foreign state. And so when you're here to touch many people in a profound way, you have to have that pile of t-shirts so that you remain relatable and so that you understand what the experience and the density of this life really is.
Amen. Amen for that. That's the truth. It's dense, it's hard, and it's enlightening. But you have to go, like Winston Churchill said, right? If you go through hell, keep going. You gotta keep going. You gotta keep
Don't
going.
stop in hell. No, just keep one foot in front of the other. It gets better. There's an end to it. And the faster you keep putting one foot in front of the other, the faster you're through it.
Unbelievably powerful. And so, wow, you know, yes. So when you like when this is happening, right, and you have a lot of awareness, you know, of getting the lesson from the pain, which I really believe that you help your clients get the gold. And I always say there's a golden nugget in the mess, in the past, in the messy aspects, the sweaty, messy.
It took me like 4 decades to get to my own golden nugget. And so I'm here to help other people get to theirs much faster than that.
Right? But I believe that's the duty, right? Like for me, I always say, you know, I hope that all the mistakes I made help you make a right choice. Like instead of make the 10,000 wrong things I've done, you'll make one right. It is, I believe it's a duty of anyone that, a soul duty, a moral duty of the soul, that anyone that has gone through hell and can't tell and doesn't hold the aspect of like a victimization persona, right? That really understands our inner stance and is connected to God, to the Great Spirit, to pass it on. Is just like, I always ask, like, what will God do? What will Spirit do? What will sacred harmony do? And it leads me to serve others. It leads me to help them, right? For them not to take 4 decades or 5, like some of us, Zofia.
Yes, exactly.
For them to take maybe 1 decade, maybe 1 year, maybe 1 month.
Can I put a little
whatever you want? This is your
comment in there.
Please.
Because you mentioned don't hold the victimization stance.
Yeah, please.
And while I agree with that in principle, we're still human beings, and so it's kind of normal to end up there. So if you're in a moment where it's like, oh my God, the world just shits on me and I'm everybody's scapegoat,
right?
Take a deep breath and know
I've been in that one this week.
You hold the key to stepping out of that in your very own hands. And so you can sit in victim as long as you wish to sit in victim. And our society rewards victim, you know, pretty abundantly.
Yes.
So it's not unusual for people to get stuck there. So if you have been stuck there, are stuck there right now, I would offer you the permission to have some compassion for yourself.
That's it. Compassion. You
Okay.
just became the bodhisattva. I love that, to receive the teachings. That's why I'm here. My podcast is like, I'm like, you are the five. They say that you are the five people, the average of the
That
five
are
people you hang out.
closest.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
exactly.
I just received a sacred teaching of deeper compassion. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. So with that said, and plus everything has a right to exist, right? And everybody
Yeah.
has their journey. And I
Well,
love the
and it's
compassion.
part of the reason that we came into this world, right? We're in this
Mm,
world of really extreme experiences.
yes.
And most of the folks who are on this spiritual seeking path are looking for the very exalted, God connected kind of extreme, but that's not the only extreme we come here to explore.
Boom. Wow.
Some of us come here to explore other extremes that look like addiction, or that look like intolerance, or whatever the thing is, greed,
Mm,
selfishness. We come to experience all of these things. And some of us
mm.
experience both ends of it in the same lifetime, which is a heck of a lot of whiplash.
Wow. I love this. I've been receiving a lot of spiritual education lately, like with you. I spoke to one of my beautiful clients, students that are teachers disguised as students, right? She said that, you know what, Yvonne? Because there's a lot of saying in the mindset world, like you have to earn the right. And I have that core value believer. And she said, you know what? We already earned the right. We are on earth.
Mhm.
I was like, wow, it was like,
Yeah.
oh,
You
we
came
earned the
in
right.
with the right. Yes.
Yeah. And she said, all the things that go on before, the soul and through the womb, and just having that soul courage to be incarnated here on earth. She says that's an earned right, like earn the right to live this experience, which is going to be extreme. It's not an
Yeah.
experience of La La Land, Sometimes it is.
No, the Earth can be a very extremely dense and challenging place. And
Yes.
in fact, I remember a few things as a very young child, like 3 years old, that 2 to 3-year-old range. There were a couple of really formative things that happened. And I can remember having a fit when I was in that 2 to 3-year-old range. And I was exceedingly upset because I was unable to enforce my will upon this world. And
Wow.
I understood on a spiritual level that where I had come from, this would not have been an issue. What I wanted would have been manifest, and it would have happened. Uh, and that this world was very dense, and it wasn't responding as easily and as gracefully as where I had come from. And I was very upset by that. And I went on a sit down strike for a number of years. It's like, I'm not playing this game.
And you were, Sophia, did you say 2 or 3 years old? You have the
Two,
awareness. You remember.
I remember that very distinctly. It was that, what I want to say, that emotional an experience that it was like seared into my memory. And because it's very common not to remember anything from like the first 5 or 6 years of your life. But
Wow.
you will remember some very intense things if they're sufficiently burned into your brain structure. And that one was.
Wow. Oh my goodness. This is getting deeper and deeper and deeper in the transmission. So then let me go back to a topic. We can go so deep with you. It's
Yes, we totally can. You asked about
yeah,
my journey and how I
yeah.
arrived where I am. I spent
Oh,
many decades very much in the humanistic 2 + 2 = 4. It's got to be logical, replicatable world,
yes,
right?
yes,
I was a trained scientist. Then I went into
yes.
corporate. Troubleshooting was my expertise, and
Mm.
corporate ate that shit up. It's like, damn, everything we
I
give her,
love.
she makes it better. And so let's throw something larger at her, and let's throw
Yes.
something larger at her. And it was almost self-defense in a lot of ways
Wow.
because they would call you at all hours of the day or night if what you were responsible for broke down. And so it's like I became the slayer of things that happened every night because I wanted to sleep.
Wow.
So that was, wonderful and amazing. And in many ways, it fit me well because I have this rhythm of intensity I've always kind of secretly suspected I might be a little bipolar or something, because I'll go through these intense moments of do, and then now I need to just coast for a while, and then do. And that worked out fairly well in the section of corporate I was in, because as I said, they would throw these big projects at me. I would work. I would kill the things that happened every night, and I would start to get bored with it. And I would be sleeping and resting, and it wasn't that big a deal. And then they would go, okay, it's time to give her something else.
Wow, Sophia. And Sophia, tell me, I want to go very quickly,
Yeah.
to the I'm going back in your bio because Lyme disease, I had Lyme disease for me, and I had a
Uh,
holistic doctor, that muscle tester, best kinesiologist that I've met. He cured this thing by energetic and by herbs, and unbelievable. But Lyme disease, seems to me that it's happening more and more and more in the world. And that is
they just
also,
they
yes,
just know what it is. They just know what it is. That's what it is.
exactly,
For many decades, or centuries actually, they haven't understood what it is. And
exactly,
it's something that is pandemic. It is
exactly.
endemic in all parts of the world. If there are ticks of any sort in your environment,
No.
Lyme disease is there present with it as well.
Yeah, and you
Um,
you were able to get out of there. So now, coming from where you came from, the journey, share with us a little bit about that collapse that had you. Lead us from the collapse, briefly, as briefly as you can. I would like to stay hours with you, to the moment of your
well,
awakening. Yes.
yeah, the collapse happened in cycles. Give me a second here. Got to get the frog out of my throat. The collapse happened in cycles. And one of the things about Lyme disease is it will eat your brain. Okay. It's a relative of syphilis. And if you
Yes.
remember health class in school, untreated syphilis will eat your brain and kill you.
Wow.
Lyme will do that also, but it does it on a much slower time scale.
Yes.
And I knew I was sick. I knew I didn't have the same energy levels that other people had, and that I was getting sick a lot more easily than I used to. So that was going on, but I didn't have the time to figure it out.
Right,
I
because you
hadn't
were in the culture, you were still in the other lifetime of the culture of busy, right? That
Yes,
busy is
I
powerful.
was in corporate, and I had all these events to do, and I was in outside sales at that stage of my life, and it's like do all the things, deliver all the stuff to all the people. And so I'm going to the doctor and complaining about being, exhausted all the time, and we'll try this or try that, and we're going to get your blood sugar under control, and we're going to put you on statins, which was a freaking disaster. My body doesn't accept statins.
Yeah.
So I'm doing all of this, and they're sending me to specialists. And so I've seen the rheumatologist and a bunch of other people, because they're suspecting fibromyalgia and lupus and rheumatoid arthritis and a bunch of stuff. And they're not finding any of that, or they want to put the word atypical in front of it. And when a conventional doctor says atypical, whatever it is, it means you don't quite fit that diagnosis, which means this is as close as I can get, but it's not
Mm,
right, to put it in plain English.
yes.
Um, and since I speak scientist, I know what that means when they say atypical.
Oh.
And so I knew I needed to keep looking. And there was a point at which I decided I needed to be the quarterback of that team, because it was
Mm.
clear that my primary care wasn't up to that task.
Oh my
And
goodness.
the challenge with conventional medicine is they want to work in silos. That's what all these specialties are about. It's like,
Exactly.
I just deal with coronary matters. Well, your coronary is connected to a whole bunch of other things, like your
Exactly. So it's
pulmonary
all connected.
and your kidneys. And yeah, so you can't really put them in discrete silos like that. So I came to the conclusion I needed to find a functional medicine doctor that takes
Mm.
insurance. And that's like a unicorn, right?
But it is rare. It's not, it's getting less rare nowadays. But
Yeah,
however,
but
it is rare.
insurance is like the
Yeah.
last people to get on board with
Oh,
anything.
yeah, yeah, I don't even think of them anymore. It's like,
Yeah,
but people
it's
need
like
it. Yeah.
if I have to go to the hospital because it's obviously some sort of a crisis that requires intervention, then we will go there. But yeah, for other stuff, not so much anymore.
Yes, yes, yes.
Um, and so to kind of shorten the story, let's just put it this way. My soul took that black magic marker and it started crossing things off the list, and it put us in
Mm.
bankruptcy, and it took my husband out of his career and required him to go back to school to get additional training. It took one by one things off the list to the point that I had no other options
Mm.
that I could pursue. At the time my awakening happened, we were living in a borrowed condo. My
Mm.
husband was making 1/3 of what he normally made. I was unemployed and could not make a 30-minute meal in 3 hours. Okay, that's the
Wow.
level of function I had in that moment. My big, beautiful brain was on the fritz in a major sort of way. It trying to remember things during that stage of my life, the analogy I give is you go out to the garage to get something. You open the door to the garage, and the garage is not behind the door. Well,
Hmm.
shit. Okay, so you close the door and you turn around to go back to the house, and now the house is gone as well.
Mm.
That's what it was like trying to remember things that had gone on. And it seemed to be more of a short term memory thing than a long term memory thing. But
Right.
regardless, without your short term memory, it's very hard to stay on task. And that's why it takes me 3 hours to make dinner, because I have to remind myself all the time what's happening. Why am I here? What am I doing? What is the next step?
Wow.
And so I was in a bad, bad, bad place. But I
Mm.
had found my unicorn. And they were putting me through all of the tests. And when functional medicine doctors take blood samples, you need an infusion afterwards. I
Really?
remember her
Oh,
coming
yeah.
over with this tray of test tubes. I'm like, why is she bringing everybody's test tubes over here?
Wow.
Those are all for you, sweetheart.
Mm.
And so they ruled out a bunch of stuff. They found some stuff that actually helped me quite a bit, but it wasn't the answer, in that I have a methylation problem that doesn't allow my brain to properly balance its brain chemistry. But now that I know about it, I can take RNA drops that allow me to balance my brain chemistry on my own, and I don't have to take antidepressants
Oh,
anymore.
I'm so happy for that. And with all of that, going through that, so what happened the moment of your awakening? How did you?
Here's what happened. I
Oh
got
my
pinched
God.
into this corner, right?
Yes.
Because we're in bankruptcy. We're not even living in a property that we own. My husband's making almost no money. And I've discovered the problem, Lyme disease. We've finally put a label on it. And the doctor has a plan that has a 70% success rate, which is pretty good if you ask people in Lyme.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and so he gave me a detailed printout of the plan because I knew I was gonna need to talk to the insurance people, and the conversation with the insurance people went like this: "I have a diagnosis," and I explained all this stuff, and her response was, "We don't believe in chronic Lyme." Well, isn't that fucking convenient for you? And so the bottom line of that conversation was, we'll pay for 60 days of oral antibiotics, full stop. And by the way, your doctor is no longer in network.
Mm. Wow.
And so I have this plan that conservatively is $27,000 for the first year.
Oh my
I don't
goodness.
know the exact number because it always ended up in that ballpark, but it was never the same number.
Wow.
But it's enough for me to know that there's no way we can do that right now. And I also know enough about where I am in my illness to know I can't wait 3 years for the bankruptcy to be over. I won't be here.
Mm.
And so I'm thinking about, well, what are my options? I can't borrow money. I can't get a job because I can't freaking make dinner in 30 minutes. My husband's working full time for a fraction of what he normally makes, and he's going back to grad school full time. And
Mm.
I'm like, I don't know what to do other than to call my parents, which is something I was told since a very young child. After you're 18, you are on your own. Don't expect anything from us. But I thought perhaps this might be the exception, right? We know what the problem is. We just have to fix it, and then I can be independent again. And so I called my father, and the bank of Dad was empty that day. And I went to bed that night.
Mm.
And I'd taken to meditating at night because my brain has gotten so bad, I'm not going through normal sleep cycles. So if I meditate, I at least feel vaguely more refreshed when I get up in the morning, even though I haven't actually slept. But that night there was no meditating. My brain was like this trapped squirrel, and it was bouncing off all of these walls and all of these closed doors that I'd already explored, and I'm not finding any new angles on it. And
Right.
it's bouncing off, and it's bouncing off, and it's bouncing off. And finally, around 3 a.m, I had no more energy to give it.
Wow.
And I was resigned that I did not have the answer. You know, some people call it surrendered. I surrendered. It sounds so poetic. No, I was just freaking out of energy, and I had no
Yes.
answers.
Wow. I like that you call it that as it was. Yeah, you and so there was nothing else. And then what happened, Sophia?
In that moment of quiet that came after the I've given up the striving and the searching and the struggling, it occurred to me that I might want to pray. And, you know, I mentioned the religious abuse. The God that the religion taught me about was not the God that I knew and understood in my heart. You know, he's a vicious, vindictive God who would send people in to destroy another people to take over a land that wasn't theirs, but that was promised to them. And it's like asking people to sacrifice their children. It's like, no, this is not the God that I know. And yeah, I know you believe that this book is completely divinely inspired and perfect, but I suspect strongly that there are a lot of human fingerprints on it. And so it took me a long time to separate that God is probably actually distinctly different from what these people were telling me God was like. And so I decided in that moment that I was going to talk to the God that I knew and understood deep inside myself, the God that is love, the God that would never, ever, ever, ever ask us to hurt another human being.
Amen.
And so I said, God, I will do anything to get better. And I got my answer right away. I really wasn't expecting that. And it came in the form of a very small voice that said, really, anything?
Wow.
And I sat with that for a good long while, and I thought about where my edges are and what I had been taught about quote unquote God growing up and all this kind of thing. And I decided that I was going to very clearly talk to God, the God I know and understand inside myself. And I said, God, for you, I will do anything. And I got my first miracle because I slept that night. And I woke in the morning with a knowing that I needed to go get one of these clearing IVs that the doctor offered, even though I had no idea where the $250 would come from. And while I was in the infusion room, the doctor walked in. And so I waved him over and explained the circumstances. I'm in bankruptcy, insurance is out of the picture, and I'm a cash pay client. So what are my options? And he actually smiled. I'm like, wow, okay. And he says, you now have all the options now that insurance is out of the picture. And I went, oh, do tell about these other options. And he says, well, we have a naturopath herbalist on staff, and he has an amazing track record with parasitic infections. And that's what Lyme is a parasitic infection. And his office visits are half the price of mine. He treats everything with herbs, which are $30 to $40 a bottle. And I'm like, okay, that seems much more manageable and within my reach than what the conventional physician had been proposing. And so the scientist did something that she probably never would have otherwise done and went to an herbalist. And like your guy, he also used muscle testing. And I was okay with muscle testing as a scientist because I'm all right with black boxes. And what a
Right.
black box is in science, it's a process that we don't understand how it works, but we know that doing this will get us this predictable result. And
Mm.
muscle testing is a black box. We don't know exactly why it works, but we do know that it will get to truth. And I can prove that scientifically. So as a scientist, I'm okay with that. And it was through the process of visiting his office that I started to run into the tools that I needed to actually move into my spiritual powers and my spiritual awareness, although I struggled against it for many weeks. And because I'm so bloody minded, your God squad, your crew, your support crew, when you come here, they will do what they can to assist you in the hurdles you're coming up with. And in my case, it was the scientific mind wanted to completely write off and discount everything that was going on. And
Right.
so eventually, when I was coming home from the grocery store, I saw my neighbors trying to go into the house. She was struggling under his weight. He was doubled over in a great deal of pain. And so the ice cream can melt. I'm going to help her get him in the house. And she's
Mm.
telling me she's got to get an emergency appointment with the kidney doctor. It's gotten so bad. And so I stayed in the living room with him and I'm holding his hands. And I can see his eyes are closed and his lips are moving. And I know them both to be very devout people, the best kind of Christians, the ones that have taken that higher path into that relationship with the divine and do it from a non-judgmental place. And so
Mm.
I didn't want to just watch him having this private moment. So I closed my eyes to give him some privacy. And in my
Mm.
mind's eye, there's this little tiny flame that I see. And it's popping and dancing like a pilot light would do right before it goes poof. And I'm given the
Mm.
knowing that that's where he's at right now with his life force. He's on the edge of just going poof and being out of here.
Ah, I love that, Sophia. Sophia, so you're awakening, you're going through all of the crumblings and the undoings and the depths and the transformations. We have just a couple of minutes left, but it is
Yes.
your energy is so transformational, and the way the knowing guides you, and that you help people find the gold in the pain, and kind of like shed whatever stands
Yeah.
between them and the God of love. Tell me something. So we're gonna make sure that people can have the contact. Do you work with people one on one? Can they
I
contact you online? We'll put all of
I
that.
I do,
Yes.
and there are actually 2 doors into Zofia land, and you can pick the one that sits best with you. If you're in a dark night and you're like, "I need to talk to Zofia now,"
Yes.
I
Yeah,
do offer
I will recommend that. Yes.
a free 20-minute conversation. We'll look at your soul contract, we look at your human design, we look at what's happening for you, and you
Ah,
leave with a plan. And one of the options, obviously, will be to work with me, but you leave with a plan that you could execute on your own if you want to.
that's
There
beautiful.
are no brownie points for doing it yourself, though, I will comment. That's another unlearning. So
Wow.
you can find that at bookzofiacoffeechat.com. That's BOOKZOFIA coffeechat.com. And then the other door is kind of fun because oftentimes we go through the world thinking everyone else is gifted. If only I were gifted like she is. Uh, and so I created what I call the superpower quiz. So, what is your number one spiritual superpower? You can find that at superpowerquiz.us. So you can look in the mirror and see the label on the outside of your jar.
Wow. It's so great. It's you have such a powerful transformation, and not only story, but embodied experience of the God of love. I will recommend, anyone here that has been first indoctrinated with that God is evil, God punishes, God, to connect with her, because to meet God as love is to meet the love in your heart too, and it's so healing. For those of you who think that this is La La Land, it's okay to feel bad. It's okay to go through very challenging transformations, and that's what
Yeah.
Zofia.
And it's okay to question. If
Yes,
you have
yes, amen.
questions, by all means, put them out into the universe. Ask the universe to answer the questions for you, but be very careful about the questions you put out there, because it will answer, why does this shit always happen to me? As readily as it answers, how does this shit serve me?
Wow. Thank you, Zofia, and thank you, everyone. I would love to keep going here with Zofia. I have a interview gotta do right now, but Zofia, it has been a blessing having you. I'm staying with the question: are you okay? I'm staying about the power of compassion. I'm staying about the power of the knowing. I'm staying with the power of like really surrendering, not deeper. You went into like the reality of like I was, depleting, where you have no more energy to doubt, no more energy to fight. And that's where the little voice, and I'm still hearing imagining the little voice of like, are you real? Are you for sure that you will do anything? And then awakening happens. So, Zofia, beloved, thank you so much for being with us. And, we have a little ritual in the Spirituality Now podcast. If you would like to give, just a couple of words of a blessing for the audience today, we're going to title this podcast, Are You Okay? I think that's going to open. Yes. Are you okay? And a little blessing.
My little blessing is this. There is one thing that religion is right about, and that is that God is omnipresent. And what that means in the world, in your life, is everything around you: the pen on your desk, the desk, your husband, your child, your worst enemy. These are all aspects of God fully incarnated in this world. And if you look deep into any of their eyes, if you look deep into their substance, you will find God. And you, my friend, are divine, and you are okay.
Wow. Thank you, Zofia. I felt that. I think I needed it. I'm receiving it fully. Thank you, beloved. And thank you, everyone, for joining another episode of the Spirituality Now podcast. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you for leaving us your comments, sending us your questions. And I just thank you for your support. We send you our love. We will see you next week. Les mando un beso. Mua. Adios. Thank you for listening to the Spirituality Now podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and share us with a friend. To learn more about how to live more present in the moment and take your faith into action, visit thelaflorteachings.com/faith to access the free training of 21 Days of Faith in Action today.